Hi everyone, I'm Joanna. I'm the garden coordinator at the table. We are on here. Give me 1 second. Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay, so Cedar, great. Very good. I'm really happy to follow Cedar's video because we usually do this activity together with the after school program kids. So I'm going to talk about soil sprouts. So soil sprouts are a little bit different than jar sprouts. They give us a little bit more variety in our sprouting experience. So I'm going to talk about this method, and here in front of me I have pea shoots, which definitely taste like spring. If you had a chance to watch Cedar's video, it was very cute for Maggie to say that her sprouts tasted like spring. So just to get started, we're going to talk about sourcing seeds. So Cedar is talking about using clover and alfalfa in her jar sprouts. These are going to be different in a way that we'll be able to grow bigger seeds. So I have pea shoots, and radish is another seed that's really easy to grow. It has a little bit of a spicy sprout, and then sunflowers are also the easy sprout to grow. So Mom's Sprouting Seeds is a company from the East Coast, and they have very high quality sprouting seed, reasonably priced, and their shipping is free over $25. So one thing to remember with sprouting is that you actually don't need a lot of seed to get you going, because you will only be using a tablespoon at a time. So in my 1 kilogram bag of peas, I can probably, if I'm sprouting them once a week, it will last me for a while. So the first thing that you will do is try to decide what you're going to grow and keep your ideas simple to set yourself up for success. Start with something simple. I did post this sprouting handout on our Table Community Food Center website under the garden resources. So you can download it, and it has all the details that you need to get you started. So once you have figured out what you want to sprout, it will be important to keep the seeds labeled with a date. For some reason, the companies often don't put their dates on the package, so you want to date them, and anything over 2 years is potentially not going to sprout as evenly, so keep that in mind. And once I receive my seeds, I put them in jars so they are tight, and I keep them out of direct sunlight. So the equipment that you're going to need for soil sprouts is going to be these tins. So I like to use these loaf pans because they are a good even shape, so I can kind of have them all together and they take up less space. But you can also recycle materials. You can grow them in the plastic trays that your like greens come in. The idea is that you actually don't want drainage in pans. So if you want to grow more sprouts at once, you can also use the bigger loaf pan. And then the next thing you're going to need is soil. So the soil that we will use here is going to be Soilless Mix. And you can purchase Soilless Mix at Canadian Tire or Home Hardware. And the idea is to not have any soil in your mix, because that will potentially bring in molds and pathogens and cause problems. So the Soilless Mix is basically peat moss, vermiculite, and perlite. So the soil mix is going to be pre-moistened, so you want it to be moist so it kind of stays in your hand. and doesn't fall apart, but it's not, you know, dripping with water, because then that will be too wet. Remember that these containers don't have drainage holes, so whatever water is in there, it will stay and not drain away. So you need your pans, your soil, your seed, and then the last thing you're going to need is paper. So the paper I use to cover my seeds is brown paper, paper towel. But you can also use newspaper if you're comfortable. The ink is supposed to be vegetable based, but so if you're comfortable, you can use paper. Newspaper. The important thing is to not use the white paper towel because it's extremely absorbent, so it'll actually pull the moisture out. So once you have all your supplies, it's kind of good to create this box. So you can have your pre-moistened soil and your seed and your containers and store it all in this box. So if you want to plant your sprouts every couple of days to have a continuous harvest, you can then just pull this box out, plant your seeds, and then put it away. It will mean that you'll more likely do it because it won't require a lot of setup. So again, we want to set ourselves up for success, so we will continue growing sprouts and having these fresh greens. So this is our box. So to get started, I'm going to show you how much soil to use. So another thing about this process that makes it really easy and simple is that we actually need very little soil to go in here. So these sprouts are only going to grow for about 12 days, so we don't need a lot of soil for them. So if I can zoom in on here to show you, I'm only putting in maybe ½ an inch of soil, and I'm firming it down so it's kind of tight and nice and level. So this is a pan ready for planting. So our seed is also pre-soaked. So on the packages of the seeds, you'll have soak to start. So it says 6 to 12 hours. If you soak seeds for more than 12 hours, they will start to rot a little bit and get kind of smelly. So make sure if you soak your seeds and then you're not able to plant them the next day, it's better to drain the water off and just leave them in the jar and then plant them the following day instead of leaving them in the water. So broccoli seed is a little more tricky to grow, and they actually say that you're only supposed to soak them for about 4 hours. So once your seed is soaked overnight with the peas, I should have a strainer here, but I missed that element. So once your seed is pre-soaked, you're just gonna sprinkle the seeds on top, and we want to make sure that the seeds are kind of touching, but they're not overcrowded. So with the peas, it's really easy because they're big and less possibility for failure with peas for sure. So this is 1.5 tablespoons of seed, and that fills this container. So this is kind of, you want to have them evenly spaced, and so this is what your planted container will look like. And after they have been planted in the pre-moistened container, I have this, what I call a blanket. I call this a little blanket for my seeds. So I soak this paper towel to make it saturated, and then I just cover the seeds, and And this basically completes the process. So now I put this in a warm, dark place. So the greatest thing about growing soil sprouts that kind of differs from microgreens is that we don't need light for most of the process. The light that's really required maybe at day 8 is when we want to bring them out to light. This way we get a nice long sprout. So you can see I took these out from the dark 2 days ago, and they're nice and green. These are ready to eat, and this is what they looked like before I took them out. So they'll be yellow and long, and in a couple of days these will green up, and they'll also be ready to eat. So the thing about it is that we want to harvest them at this stage before they grow any further, because otherwise they will get stringy, so they won't be as nice to eat. If you're growing sunflower seed, they can get a little bitter also. They change the flavor. So the 12 to 13 day mark is the optimal time to eat these sprouts. And in terms of possibility for failure, there is a possibility also. So these will go in a dark place and in a warm place. And I will not water it unless I really feel the need. So I'll be watching for the weight of this pan, and when it gets really light, then I'll water it. But for the most part, these actually, for the whole 12 days, I did not water them at all. So speaking of failures, things that can happen is we can have mold going on. So these are broccoli sprouts, and broccoli is a little bit more challenging to grow. It's a very, very fine seed, and I keep trying to grow it, and I think what happens often is my seed is seeded, like I seed it too tight, and then there's not enough air circulation. So with certain seeds, you have to really watch for moisture and air circulation, as well as a combination of the warmth. So I'm going to keep trying with the broccoli, and one day I will get it just right. But for now, this is going to go in my compost. So once you have harvested your seeds, maybe you will be, yeah, I need scissors. So just give me 1 second, I'm going to pop out to get scissors. Alright, so I'm going to take these out. You can see all the roots are right at the very bottom of this, right here. So to harvest them, I'm going to simply cut, I'm going to cut into here because I am going to wash them. I'm just going to cut them off at the bottom. And some of you will probably be wondering, can we grow these again? So these will regrow after we have harvested them, but their nutrition won't be as high as it was in the beginning, so you can add a little bit of fertilizer, but they also won't regrow as evenly, so you'll get kind of sporadic growth. At this point, I give this to my chickens, and they finish it off.
Oops.
So these will get washed. They can be stored in the fridge for up to three days. I don't think they'll last in my fridge that long. So you can see this is the amount that we got from one. So it's maybe a cup of sprouts that we got from this one pan. So you can use that in a day. And if you were to do this continuously, you can grow one. You can plant one of these every couple of days to have a continuous supply. You can grow different types of seeds to have texture variety. Another fun and easy seed to grow is buckwheat, and it has a nice pink stem and a bigger leaf. It's almost like a lettuce. So I do have a book. I have a book on this entire process, and it is available at the table. If someone wants to borrow it, we can potentially make arrangements for you to take a look at it. But starting with the handout, I think is there's a good summary here on what you need to do to get yourself started. So I'm just going to take a look and see if there are any questions, and if anybody has anything, now is the time to answer anything that's not going to be asked right now. I will be checking the website to make sure that your questions are answered. And I hope everyone is doing as good as they can in this time. If you are able to enjoy the sunshine, it's definitely a great thing to do. And growing these sprouts, you know, if you don't have access to a garden, it gives you a little bit of a way to connecting with your food and knowing that you can have a little bit of fresh gardening right in your kitchen. So what kind of dark place? So you know what? I actually put my my sprouts. They can go under a couch. They can go in a bench. They can go in your closet. Anywhere where they're not going to be in direct sunlight. The idea is to have the darkness will give you a longer sprout, so you have a little bit more, you know, a big more product than you would otherwise, because you know when plants have access to light, they actually grow more compact. They don't get leggy. With these sprouts, we actually want them to be leggy, so we get more sprouts. So yes, the soil. We're gonna go back. Heather is just tuning in. The soil. So the soil is a soilless mix. So a mix of perlite, vermiculite, and peat moss. It has no soil, no actual topsoil in it, and it is sterile. So this is soil that you can get at Home Hardware or Canadian Tire. Just make sure it's not potting mix. It's the soilless mix. That way we just won't have as much you know, chances for molds. And if you were to use the soil from outside, it would have a lot of biology in it. So we want it to be sterile, and the nutrition in this case with the sprouts comes from the seed. So we don't have to worry about nutrition in the soil, because the seed has all the nutrition that it needs to grow to the first seed leaf, to the first true leaves. So we harvest it before it gets too big, so we get all that we need out of the sprout. Very good.
Question: when do you take the paper towel off?
Oh yeah, so the paper towel, when do I take the paper towel off? The sprouts are actually going to push the paper towel up on their own, so they will tell you they will tell you when it's time to take the paper off. So you can take it off, you know, once it's at maybe an inch, a couple inches, you know, and then the paper towel keeps the moisture in, and sprouts pushing it up, but I usually take it off them out, or when the paper falls off because the sprouts have pushed it off. Very good. Great. Very good. Good questions. And I'm going to do sampling. They're very crunchy and they taste just like peas. And so it's definitely a good plant to start with if you like the taste of spring. Okay, so I'm going to finish off for today. If there are any more questions, feel free to post them after the video. If you want, you can again get the handout on the Table CFC website under Garden Resources. Thank you for tuning in, and stay in touch to see what comes up next Thursday, as we will be live at 1 with some more exciting information to share. Take care.